I love road movies. There's something about them that feels modern, but also very primordial at the same time. Many of the first ancient stories from across the globe consist of a hero setting out on a quest across the land. I think that at some deep, evolutionary level, humans are drawn to stories about travel across vast spaces, grand adventures, and entry into the unknown. In the world of today, however, there's very little left to discover. In many ways, I think the road film is the closest approximation to those ancient tales of adventure that we have in the modern day. Anything can happen on the road. You may meet friends, foes, face setbacks, challenges. You may get lost along the way, take a wrong turn on the way to your final destination. In my eyes, the image of the open road is the perfect visual representation of a story yet to be told. The cool thing is that a story can consist of anything, and so the road can take on infinite meanings. Here are some of my favorite ways that different filmmakers from around the world have used the symbol of the road on film. The most common and obvious meaning behind the symbol of the road is freedom. There's something about a character that spends a lot of time on the road that stands antithetical to civilization, to settling down, to a monotonous lifestyle and staying in one place. A particularly famous example of this is Dennis Hopper's 1969 film Easy Rider, which features the dual protagonists Billy and Wyatt, who roam the countryside on dope-ass motorcycles, sleep on the ground, and live a very free existence. It's impossible to understand Easy Rider without understanding its historical and cultural context. 1960s America was host to a number of politically polarizing events, the Vietnam War draft and the passing of the Civil Rights Act, to name a few. Many young people were riding against the cultural status quo set by their parents in the wake of World War II. Marry, buy a house, have children, and settle down. The books, movies, and music of the time stand testament to the mass experimentation of alternative lifestyles. Easy Rider shocked Hollywood with its commercial success, $60 million from a $400,000 budget. Much of the film's appeal came from how well it embodied the cultural spirit of freedom at the time, and its most overt symbolic representation of that freedom was the open road, upon which its main characters spend much of the film's runtime. Throughout Easy Rider, Billy and Wyatt are turned away at hotels and restaurants, jailed, attacked, and, spoiler alert, ultimately killed for their alternative lifestyle at the end of the film. In many ways, their death acts as a doubling down on the sentiment of the film. Not only is Easy Rider telling the audience to live free, but to live free or die trying. Agnes Varda's 1985 film Vagabond also uses the road as a symbol for freedom. The film centers on a woman named Mona who, similar to Billy and Wyatt, roams the roads of the country, although that country is France, and she does so on foot. The film begins with a farmer finding Mona dead in a ditch, and then goes back in time to trace her journey to its endpoint. Vagabond is a much more somber exploration of the same themes of freedom that Easy Rider explores. In a scene close to the middle, Mona speaks with another vagabond turned goat farmer about the benefits but also downsides of a life on the road.
Toi, c'est la liberté totale, tu choisis, mais tu as la solitude totale. Il vient un moment où, si on continue, je pense, on se détruit.
Like in Easy Rider, many characters regard Mona with disgust for her choice of lifestyle.
J'ai pas eu confiance. Ces rôdeurs, tout est lui-même. Des dragueuses et des feignantes.
However, there are many others that are jealous of her freedom. The presence of her character often causes people to reflect on their own life, to ponder the grievances they have about a conventional, fixed, and mundane lifestyle.
Cette fille qui est venue chercher de l'eau, elle était libre, elle va où elle veut.
Peut-être qu'elle ne mange pas à sa faim tous les jours, servie par sa mère.
Des fois, ce serait mieux de ne pas manger. Moi, j'aimerais être libre.
At the same time, Mona lacks many of the basic securities that these side characters take for granted. She has no money. She has to ask others for food and water. She sleeps in a tent in the cold winter, rarely showers, and wears the same clothes every day. This double-edged sword is nicely articulated in the film's original French title, which translates to Without Roof or Law. In the end, Mona doesn't go out with a bang like Billy and Wyatt. She merely trips and falls into a ditch and can't muster the physical or emotional strength to get up, to keep going. She dies of frostbite. Her death is prophesied by the man she speaks to near the middle of the film.
D'ailleurs, tous mes amis qui ont fait la route et qui ont continué sont morts ou sont devenus des loques, alcooliques ou drogués, en général. Parce que la solitude les a bouffés complètement, à force.
While Easy Rider depicts the beauty of freedom, Vagabond focuses on the price of freedom. Mona's death at the end means something different to that of Billy and Wyatt's. It indicates that freedom comes at a price. Sideways is a 2004 film by director Alexander Payne. It follows Miles, who embarks on a wine-tasting bachelor party trip for his best friend Jack. Miles was divorced a few years previously and has never recovered his mental health or self-confidence. He has been working and reworking the same novel for years. The manuscript is now around 1,000 pages long. Jack desperately wants to get Miles out of his long romantic rut, and when the two meet Stephanie and Maya, he feels that he may have stumbled upon the world's greatest two-man. Jack quickly falls in love with Stephanie despite his wedding in a week.
I mean, being with Stephanie, it's completely opened my eyes. She's not uptight or controlling, she's just cool.
There's also a spark between Maya and Miles. They both love wine, and Maya even asks to read Miles' story. However, as per usual, it doesn't work out for Miles in the end. Maya walks out on him. Miles ends the trip even more sad and dejected than before, which only strengthens the conviction that he's held since he was divorced. I should never put myself out there because it only ends in me getting hurt. It isn't until the very end of Sideways that the meaning of the road comes into focus. Some months have passed. Miles is back at home, and he receives a message from Maya on his answering machine. She's finished his manuscript and found it very moving.
Another reason I didn't call you sooner is because I wanted to finish your book, which I finally did last night.
A close-up reaction shot of Miles' face slowly fades to a shot through the front window of his car as he drives back into wine country, toward Maya's house. In Sideways, the road is a symbol for taking initiative, getting out there again, and taking control of your own life. Miles has been unable to open himself up to the potential of love with any other woman for years. He doesn't believe that he's worthy. Throughout most of the film, Jack is the one forcing Miles to get back on the road. He's the one who sets Miles up with Maya. His bachelor party is the only reason Miles even goes to wine country in the first place. Only at the end does Miles finally take control of his own life and go do something for himself. It takes him the entire film, but in the end, he finally gets in his car and gets back on the road. Paris, Texas begins as Travis Henderson emerges from the desert after 4 years. He is quickly scooped up by his brother Walt, who lives in LA and has been taking care of Travis's son, Hunter. When they reach LA, Travis begins the slow process of winning Hunter's trust back.
Hi.
One night, Travis learns the whereabouts of Jane, Hunter's mother and Travis's partner. The next day, he and Hunter set out. In Houston, Travis finds Jane working at a sex club. He pays for time with her and they speak about what happened 4 years prior, the reason Travis disappeared initially. At the end, he tells Jane that Hunter is in a hotel downtown. Jane promises to be there. That night, Travis watches Jane reconnect with their son through the window from a parking lot across the street. Then, wordlessly, he gets in his car and drives away, crying. The first thing that Travis says to his brother after days of driving is,
Paris. Paris?
Paris?
We later learn that he is talking about Paris, Texas, a middle-of-nowhere town that is apparently the place he was conceived. Later, Travis mentions a joke that his father used to tell about his mother at parties.
He would introduce Mama as the girl he met in Paris. And then he'd wait before he said Texas till everybody thought that he meant... He would wait before he said Texas till everybody thought... After everybody thought he was talking about Paris, France.
Paris, Texas is a very poetic, ambiguous film. It allows for many interpretations. That being said, this is mine, following my second viewing. Travis describes his mother as a very plain, shy, but good woman. He also speaks about an idea that his father had that was a kind of sickness. Travis's father wanted his mother to be from Paris, France, but in reality, she was from Paris, Texas.
He looked at her, but he didn't see her.
He belittled her for not matching the idea that he had in his head for the type of people they should be.
But my mother was not a fancy woman.
Something about the way Travis's father treated his mother bled down, instilling in Travis this deep shame about who he was and where he came from. The first time I saw Paris, Texas, I noticed that whenever Travis is faced with a difficult or uncomfortable situation, he tries to escape. He hits the road. However, upon watching the film for a second time, I realized that the real thing Travis is running from is himself. In an attempt to escape his shame, Travis moves, constantly. Whether it be by foot or by car, Travis must keep moving. The tragic truth of his character is that no matter how far he moves, he will never outrun himself. At the end of the film, when he drives off, you get this sense that Travis will probably continue to try and escape himself for the rest of his life. In Paris, Texas, this is what the road represents. Futile escape. Wim Wenders was especially good at capturing the vastness of Southwest America, the seemingly infinite number of roads and highways that crisscross through the landscape. There's enough space to escape from anything, anyone. Except, of course, yourself. Y Tu Mamá También follows Tenoch and Julio, two immature and naive 17-year-olds in Mexico. When they meet Luisa, they jokingly invite her on a road trip to an imaginary beach called Heaven's Mouth.
¿Y cómo se llama?
Boca de qué es, del cielo. Boca del cielo. A huevo.
The next morning, Luisa actually takes them up on the offer, and so all three set out on the road. At random moments during the film, a voiceover jumps in and provides the audience with information.
Para fines de año, Chuy y su familia tendrán que abandonar su hogar cuando comience la construcción de un hotel exclusivo sobre terrenos ejidales de San Bernabé.
Events that have happened on the road in the past, things that lie in the characters' futures.
Chuy intentará dar servicio de lancha para turistas, pero será bloqueado por el grupo de lancheros agremiados, recién llegados de Acapulco, favorecidos por el Consejo Local de Turismo. 2 años después terminará como empleado de limpieza del hotel. Jamás volverá a pescar.
Julio and Tenoch are often oblivious to the information delivered in voiceover form. It usually stands in pretty stark contrast to the fun, lighthearted events happening on screen. Similar to Easy Rider, it is helpful to view Y Tu Mamá También within the cultural and political context of Mexico at the time. By 2000, the Institutional Revolutionary Party, or PRI, had maintained power in Mexico for around 70 years. Over time, their name had become synonymous with illegitimate elections, violent suppression of dissent, and corruption. As the turn of the century grew near, electoral reforms began passing that reshaped the democratic system and established checks and balances. In 2000, Vincent Fox was elected by fair election, marking the first non-PRI administration since 1929.
Al verano siguiente, el partido oficial perdió las elecciones presidenciales por primera vez en 71 años.
Put simply, the turn of the century was a chaotic time of Mexican political, institutional, and cultural transition. As Julio and Tenoch cruise through their home country, it never occurs to them to stop and observe the political upheaval, extreme economic inequality, and police brutality that color their world, because it lies outside of their testosterone-filled bubble. They've got the windows rolled up, they're smoking weed, they're trying to seduce Luisa. They're kids, and they couldn't be bothered. In Y Tu Mamá También, the road represents youthful ignorance and self-obsession, a disconnected path cutting through a landscape filled with hardship that Julio and Tenoch casually rumble by. I won't get too deep into spoiler territory, but by the end of the film, Julio and Tenoch finish the road trip, leave the road, and enter the bleak world they previously ignored. In doing so, they lose the last of their youth and become adults. Thank you for watching.